Okay, so now I have training 3 for my air units and my land units. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna move here. Actually gonna keep the land force here. And I'm only gonna use my air units because I need the land units to defend the area. And I think I'm gonna go here. Now, I think I'll be fine because, the only really threat that I have is from land attacks because I don't have a lot of those because they only attack a lot with their air units. But we don't really need our air force there because our AA turrets can take them out, but maybe not our land turrets because we don't have as many in all of the areas. We only have it in the one area where they're most likely going to directly attack from. And if they attack from somewhere else, we need an air force to move and attack from a different area. Now, as you guys can see, the shield effect, which I call, is where the energy shield emits an area that it protects. Emits a field, and anything within that field is protected. But crap, I moved my land forces away.
Another security station.
Good news.
Okay.
Do it fast. You got inbound AC-1000s. I'm still working on the security system.
Okay. So at this point, what you want to do is just focus on getting rid of the AA and attacking all of the other air units that are being sent in as backup. Now at this point, you definitely want to have an extra engineer lying around, which we made a few early on. And what we want to do is reclaim this area. Now in order for us to do that, we need this area to be safe. So I'm just going to move this unit here, just on the outskirts of our enemy units here, and then we're going to move in. Once we finish up clearing up this area with our units. Because we will literally get destroyed. Our engineer will literally get destroyed if we do this. Now, we don't really need to focus on destroying anything else, although taking out the mass extractors and their energy generators definitely will severely affect their supply lines. I actually had to make sure take this engineer and make it stop supporting the factory for the sole purpose of help destroying enemy air units by building more air turrets. So, now, at this point, what I'm doing is grabbing another force, and this is going to be our land force this time. Well, our air force here will play the defender and defend our base. Now, what we're going to do here is focus on destroying everything at this base. We will not be able to destroy the security terminal, as that will be something we have to capture. Now I'm going to tell my engineer to go and destroy this. And some of our ground units actually have anti-air capabilities. Which is why I'm also sending them in without any air support. Though it wouldn't be as effective as sending in fighters, but we don't have that many. And right now, they're playing the role of defender for our base. Now, apparently my air units got dragged into this somehow. Need them to stay there. Well, my land forces just move in. Okay. So, now what we're gonna do We have about 10 there. Okay. What we're gonna do now is actually send in our fighters as backup. So at this point, what you want to do, now that you pretty much are fighting back and forth for this territory, is to get more engineers because you're going to need them. More engineers for capturing stuff and so forth. So what I'm going to do is actually get rid of this, disable repeat build, and make about 3 engineers. Then we can go back to a repeat build of this. Now, what we're going to do here is actually make an additional one to go and capture a security outpost. Well, while the other 2 stay and assist the factories in building units. So this one's going to go up here and assist this factory in building air units. Meanwhile, I upgrade all of this stuff. Now this one, on the other hand, is going to stay right here and assist this factory. And this engineer is going to go right here and capture this. Now, we've pretty much captured the area. All the units there are gone. So you really don't need to keep this unit here. But I like to keep it here just in case. Because you definitely don't want to... You definitely don't want to have an engineer being unprotected here. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to actually bring all these air units as one right over here. And as soon as you capture this security station, the amount of air attacks on your base is going to drastically be reduced, and you will be able to afford to spend less on defending your base. You see, they're sending stuff to attack you from multiple directions from here. They used to do it from up here, but not anymore.
Jackpot.
Okay.
Air units will now target their own defensive structures.
We're cheating again.
Yes, we are.
I guess it's technically cheating, but
Stations.
if you think about it, this is war and you're just doing whatever you can to get an advantage over the enemy. Okay, so now at this point, you don't necessarily need to do this, but setting up an intel station here is definitely going to be optimal if you want to keep enemies away, keep tabs on your enemies and all that stuff that are moving over here. Now we got inside info on what their base looks like, because we now have control of their AA, and they're shooting down their own planes. So, now that we are pretty much just mass-producing air units, pretty soon, we're going to be able to go over to this area and attack it. So I'm just going to, ahead of time, just send this this engineer here, check up on my air unit of 25. Now for this one, we're going to surprise an enemy and mix it up a bit. What we're going to do is we're going to attack with the land force first, and then have it backed up by our land forces. Have our land forces going first, and then have it be backed up by our air forces. I would normally do that, but air forces are much better in terms of what they're capable of on this mission, mainly because they how fast they can move to location and all that stuff. Now I'm gonna get persistent Scorch Bomb that does more damage over time. So normally I would go in with land forces first, but I'm going to tell them to do both at the same time. Clearly, the Air Force is going to get there first, and then the land forces will sort of arrive a little bit late, but as reinforcements to this battle. Which is something you can always do, and it's always much easier to do if you take note as to the speed at which your enemies move at for stuff. Now at this point, if you want, you can get increased weapon range and increased damage, although your land units don't do that much battling. You could get the Experimental Sea Hunter. I don't actually use this for this mission, though. This mission does not require you to use experimentals. I don't use experimentals a whole lot. I guess I just don't need them in battle. I mean, if you think about it, focusing more on your strategic placement is actually going to do you more as to preserve your units and increase their combat effectiveness rather than just getting super powerful ones. Because an AC-1000 Terror experimental gunship that the UAF has may be able to do a lot of damage and may win on a one-on-one with other air units that aren't experimentals, but if you think about it, it won't be able to stand up to, say, 50 fighters. Because they're just not capable.
No idea, but you better act fast.
Okay. So, what we're going to do is, quickly before the AC-1000s get here, is try and take out as much of this AA as possible. Okay. Yeah, one more, and then we'll engage in battle with these guys. Okay. Now I'm going to tell them to all attack one at a time. Focus fire experimentals all at once takes them out much faster. And prevents them from doing damage. The faster you destroy them, the less time they have to deal damage to you or your enemies. Because mainly you want to get for people who want to take out the enemies themselves. Or not let them get ahead of their enemies by damaging them, because if anyone who's an enemy of your enemy will technically be a thorn in their side for a while till you decide to finish them off. But as long as they are fighting your enemy, they're your ally. Even though that they're not on the same team as you, even in skirmish mode, not bothering them is a good thing. Because if you have one guy who's just attacking everyone else, and then there's one guy who's specifically targeting you, you want to take them out because they're specifically going after you, and that's going to be a bit of a problem. But as long as the guy who's attacking everyone else is still alive, he'll be able to he'll still want to attack your enemies, and he's technically helping in that way. Okay. Now I want him to convert that. Okay. And now we're going to move our Air Force and our Land Forces right here. Not sure if you can reclaim this thing, but we can always find out. Okay, so as soon as we capture that thing, we're going to take all of our forces and go directly in there. Air Force will be occupied. We'll bomb these heavy point defenses here. Go directly. Our air units will go directly for the main gate, so our land units can go in. We'll destroy all turrets, even though our air turrets will fight pretty much the opponents. Take out everything, all of their experimental factories, and so forth. Okay. So first phase, We go here, and we attack the heavy point defenses. This is the next part. Now we're gonna go here, and we're going to attack. This one here, that's pretty much gonna get destroyed, and then you go directly for this. Now there is some inherent risk of losing your ACU, and if you lose your ACU, you lose the level, but that is completely fine. But that's not fine, but it is completely a serious risk to you and anyone else near you because it goes nuclear. Even though you're going to lose the level, if you lose it, you still have to bring it in to this area here. But don't worry. If you take out the rest of the base first, which is what I'm going to do, then we should be fine. Okay. Now, because we have anti-air units in their base now, because we now own these, they cannot attack ground units.
The gate is wide open.
So, you technically need to protect these. So, at this point, just bombing run all the enemy engineers, and then disable their ground forces is the best thing you can do. Don't focus on the air units. You already have control of their air towers. Just go for the factories at this point. And turrets. Turrets first, then factories. Factories with turrets come second after turrets, and then factories that don't have turrets. But it doesn't really matter. Now, most of you, if you play as UEF, you recognize this building as a nuke defense silo. You do not have access to a nuke defense, so you cannot actually use that. But your enemy doesn't have a nuke silo, so just having that there is pointless. But this is supposed to be a heavily guarded prison, so... For me, I just destroy everything. If it's helpful to the enemy, you just destroy it. Okay, that is gone. Get rid of all defenses here. Now, pretty much at this point, you have full control over what the enemy does. If you don't want them building something in a factory, you bomb the factory. If you don't want them making experimental, you bomb the air gantry. At this point, they literally cannot do anything or weakened. They're weakened, but if you want to be sure that you won't lose your ACU, just get rid of everything first before you enter in. As a matter of fact, I would say because of the rate at which ACUs move, I would say it'd be safe to actually tell your ACU to start to move here. Meanwhile, what you can do, of course, is send in more units to the fray as backup, and then retake control of these ones, and then redirect them where to go. Now, at this point, when they only have a few structures left, is going to be the biggest problem, because they would have to spend resources on either making a factory or making something that makes resources, because they need a factory to fend off you guys with making units when you're attacking them. But if they don't have the resources to do that, they can't do that. And if they only have just enough resources to make something that makes resources, then that's fine as well. Now, I do notice that I have tried. Air units you just saw came from here. They come from outside the map. And you cannot stop that. For whatever reason, they just come out of here. I sent an air unit there once when I was playing this. They just don't work. Okay. But because of all the AA turrets you have under your control, it honestly does not really matter. Of course, your air units are going to attack them. Still doesn't matter. You overpower and you outnumber at the point of attack. And that's what's key to this battle here. Making sure that they can't do anything else. Always put them in a position where they're forced to do something rather than focus on you, or overpower and outnumber at the point of attack are the two best things you can do for this mission. Now at this point, they would only be able to attack with maybe 4 or 5 units, air units that come through here. They're going to get destroyed, and is pretty much something you don't really need to worry about them coming over here and attacking you. But just in case as a backup plan, like I say, I always have a backup plan, I keep these 2 factories on repeat and keep pumping out units to make, for the sake of stopping, for the sake of a base defense in case they do decide to skip the base and go directly here. Although we would win because they wouldn't be preventing us from getting our objective done, they'd just be destroying our base. Meanwhile, I'm over here winning with our objective here. So pretty much at this point, either option that they have, the 2 best options that they have, they do not have enough manpower to counter or follow through with both options.
The officials are ready for pickup.
Okay.
I'm in position.
So, this is how you complete this part of the strategy. Now, before anything goes further, I'd like to point out that all strategies have their own strengths and weaknesses. Some are better than others in certain situations. You do not necessarily have to use this tactic. There are probably many others you could use to defeat your enemy in this mission. But,
Not me.
I do hope you like this episode here that I made of Strategy Guide and all this stuff. And if you did, taking the time to leave any comments, questions, or feedback for me in the comment section down below would be highly appreciated. And